changed if I had heard.
You are going to be faced with a lot of issues and trials, but you are going to be so much stronger than you ever imagined.
Dear younger me, it's not your fault. You never meant to carry this beyond the cross.
Younger me. Let's put that in perspective. Where were you 20 years ago yesterday? Just pause for a moment and think about how much the world has changed. It changed the way we traveled. In fact, if you get on an airplane today, you sort of wonder, not if it's going to take off or land, but if it's going to be flown into a building or blown up in the air. Many lives were ruined on that day. So many we still have seen fall out as it is today. Some people are still trying to pick up the pieces 20 years later. We always have to remember, even in the midst of death and dying, that God is still on the throne. Otherwise, it can send you to a dark place, and you can forget where your help comes from. On last week, we started this new series, Dear Younger Me. And it gives us a chance to reflect, whether it's 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, or the things we wish we knew then that we know now. Now, none of us can go back, but each one of us can reach back and share our life experiences with those who are coming behind us. We should do at least two things. We should try to expose the empty philosophies that the world uses to hurt us. And we should express that true path of where we can find eternal and earthly peace and joy. And on last week, we started that search and we started that looking as we looked at Solomon in the book of Ecclesiastes, and he taught us about wisdom on last week. Last week we learned that wisdom was like Neapolitan ice cream. Did anybody have any Neapolitan ice cream last week? Nobody went out and got some? Okay, a few of you did. Yeah, okay. All right. And we said that, Neapolitan, for those of you who don't know what that, do they still make it? They still have it in the stores? Okay. All right. And it's what? It's chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. It's 3 ingredients. You take out any one of them, you don't have Neapolitan anymore. And so we said that wisdom was like Neapolitan ice cream. You need those 3 ingredients. And we said that first ingredient that you needed was knowledge. And we said that knowledge is the accumulation of the correct information for your situation. Isn't that what we said? Yeah. And then we went on to say that your second ingredient that you need was understanding. And we said that understanding is to know how to use the correct information for your situation. And then the third one we said was rightness, and that is to, at the right time, apply the information to your situation. And we said collectively, wisdom is the right and timely application of the correct information for your situation. And so with that understanding, we find ourselves here asking ourselves, what way can we use wisdom? And so today I want us to use wisdom to be able to live our best life. How many of you want to live your best life? Some of you claim you're living it right now, right? How many of you say you're living your best life right now? Yeah, well, I'm a research person, and so I figured I would go out to my app, and I got the app, and I'm gonna go out to TikTok. Is it TikTok? TikTok. I'm gonna go out. All right. So I figured I'd go out to TikTok. and I would look up, let me see, if I type in what does living my best life, let's just see how many hits I might get on TikTok if I were to do that. Man, let's see, yes, I'm going to type that in here. Y'all with me here? Y'all type it in on y'all. How many of y'all got TikTok? Okay, all right, type it. You got over 600 and I think it's 17 million hits of just that phrase, living my best life. But so now if I just want to do some research, because I'm a reader, so I say, you know what, let me go to Amazon. So let's go over here to Amazon and let's see if I want to go to books. And if I went to books and I want to buy a book on living my best life, let me just see what kind of hits I come up with. All right. And so look at all of those. I think on Amazon, there's over 40,000 books that you can buy on living my best life. And so then I said, well, you know what? Let me just see what some folks are saying about what living my best life means. And so let's Google that and see what comes up with living my best life on Google. Now, Google had like 4 gazillion hits on living my best life. But there was one there that talks about about millennials and how they look at it. And this young lady by the name of Sierra, and I forget her last name, wrote this article there. And I think it's Sierra Daniels is her name there. And she talked about us. She said, we talk about millennials. And she says that, now this isn't me now. This is her article. I'm just reading right out of here. What does she say? Some folks say that millennials are lazy. Now, I'm not saying that. This is what she's saying. I didn't say that. Don't be saying, Pastor said. No, I did not say that. This is what she said that y'all say that we say. It's in there. That's what she said. Y'all say, we say. But I didn't say that. But that's what y'all say, we say, we say that y'all say, we say. Isn't that what y'all say, we say? See, but we don't say that. Y'all say we say that. Have you ever asked me, did I say that? I've never said that. But anyway. For her, living her best life was doing things her way and having, how did she say it? I'm going to see if I can read it right here. Let me see if I can see here. We choose our own path and define happiness in our own way, even if that happiness is us spending our last $25 on buffalo chicken wing dip ingredients for the Super Bowl. Well, we know she's not a Dallas fan. Because they don't go to the Super Bowl. All right. So we're going to look at how to live our best life from a biblical perspective. We see that there's a gazillion ways to live it. So let's open your Bibles for those of you who have your hard copies. And then for those of my friends who have your app, I want to encourage you, or your electronic devices, to pull down our app. And if you do that, you should pull it down, and then at the very bottom right-hand corner of our app, you can tap on the word worship, and then worship would bring you to a slide that says sermon notes. And then on sermon notes, you would just tap on today's date, let me see, which is the 12th, and voila, it would put you there with our lesson text. So that puts us at Ecclesiastes, the 2nd chapter, and I'll come from the NIV, and we'll start at verses 1 through 3. And there we find these words. I asked myself, come now, come Herb, come now, all right? And I will test you with pleasure. Isn't that what it says? To find out what is good. But that proved to be, look at this, meaningless. Laughter, I said, is madness. And what does pleasure accomplish? I have tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly, and my mind still guided me with wisdom. I wanted to see, I believe that's what it says, right? To see what was good for people to do under the heavens for the few days of their life. Living their best life. Now, on last week, as I said, we looked at wisdom, and I told you about the book of Ecclesiastes being looked upon as a pessimistic book when really it's a realistic book. In fact, it's probably one of the most, I would say it's the most misunderstood book in all the Bible. Now, there are a lot of verses that are very difficult, but very few times will I say a whole book is very difficult. But this is one of the most difficult books to sort of understand it unless you do a deeper theological dive. And that's what I'm hoping that we're doing each weekend. I'm going to talk about most of chapter 2, but I want you to read the entire chapter at a later point in time. Now, on last week, we talked about Solomon trying to find happiness through wisdom. He felt if he had enough knowledge that he could solve all of his problems. But what he discovered was the more he knew, the greater his sorrow became and the more grief he has. I say it like this: the more I know, the more I find out I don't know. Anybody else? Yeah, I mean, you know, what you thought you was just rock solid on, if I didn't have the Bible to go to, I would be messed up. Now, this week I told you we were going to talk about pleasure. And I asked you on last week, and none of you put anything in chat. I guess you were afraid, you're scared, to put what it is that you felt you needed to have in order to live your best life. Well, I went on record last week and said that mine was satisfaction, and that would be pleasure. That would be that thing that satisfies us. Now, let me just have a disclaimer, because I know some folks, if you're visiting with us or you're searching for God, some of us look at God, I did include it, as a killjoy. How many of you believed it, or believed, or have believed, or used to believe, or still believe? So everybody should be able to raise their hand at some point on this, that God was a killjoy. Yeah, some of you are raising your hand like that. Yeah, put it up way up there. And because of that, we feel that if we come into this religious thing, that we're going to stop having fun. That we can't have the fun with God that we can have in the world. And so for many of us, we will pull away from God because we don't believe that God wants us to have fun. Well, that's a lot from the pit of that deep, dark place. Yeah, because I think they're putting this online, so I have to be careful, because some folks will take that soundbite, say he was cussing in church. Yeah, all right. So from that deep, dark place, okay? But God really wants us to have and live our best life now and later. Jesus says, I came to give you life so that you could have it what? More abundantly. And so he wants us to have the abundant life. But how he wants us to have that abundant life is inside the boundaries. In fact, it's sort of like putting a fence around us. And so for most of us, we feel we need to get outside the fence in order to have fun. Now, can I just do a little sidebar here? Do you know statistics show that children who play in a yard without a fence feel more at risk than children who play in a yard with a fence? Why? Because the children in the yard know where the boundaries are. They know how far they can go. If the ball goes over the fence, they run up to the fence like, I ain't going out there. But if a child doesn't have a fence and the ball goes into the street, they'll run right out after the ball. I did. I can tell this is a true story. I was about 5-6 years old, and we lived over off of in Double Oaks. Anybody know where Double Oaks is in Charlotte? I can't afford to live over there now, but back then we called it the projects. Now it's suburban or urban living or whatever. Yeah, they got apartments that, I mean, it's just crazy over there, but that's another story. But anyway, we were playing football, and the guy threw the ball, and it went over my head, and it went out in the street, and I ran right after it. Didn't even think about a car. Got hit by a car. Now, show you how good God was. I knew God had plans for me. Didn't do a bit of damage. The worst damage was when I got home. Yeah. Oh, you ain't hurt? You don't have nothing broke? Okay. Didn't I tell you not to? I wish I'd broke a leg or something. Are y'all with me here? Boundaries. Are y'all walking with me here? And so when we look at God and we look at this passage here, when Solomon starts talking about pleasure, he's talking about his trying to find pleasure outside the boundaries in which God has set for him. And so notice here now, he picks up in this first verse here, he says, I said to myself, come now. He's having this rational conversation. Have you ever talked to yourself? Yeah, sometimes that's the only person you can find an intelligent conversation with, isn't it? I'm not saying me, I said you said that. Yeah, sometimes you say, you know what, I need to have an intelligent conversation. So you just talk to yourself. And so here's Solomon, since he is the smartest man in the world, if he's going to have an intelligent conversation, the only person he could have it with was himself. So here he says, come here. Come here, Solomon. This is his talking to himself, like me saying, come here, Herb. He says, come here, Herb. Now, I'm saying, come now. I want to test you with pleasure. Now, this word test means like a controlled experiment. Means some of y'all have taken a test before, right? Either in school or at the doctor's office. Both of us, we're looking for the outcome of the examination, right? Yeah, if it's in the doctor's office, we want them to come back and say everything's fine. If it's in school, we want them to come back and say everything's fine, right? We want to pass both tests, don't we? Yeah. And we don't care over here if it's with a 70 or a 71. We just want to say we passed. Now, you know, you don't even need that in school. They done dropped it down to 60. That's crazy, isn't it? But that's another lesson. But he's talking about a test here now. So he's talking about a controlled experiment that he's going to put himself through. And he said, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. And so he says here that I'm going to test myself with pleasure. Now, to understand pleasure, again, this pleasure is this feel good, this satisfaction, this gratification, this inner joy that you get over and over again. It's being stimulated or that you feel because you have done something. And as I said earlier, God is not against our having pleasure. In fact, he created that emotion and desire in us. So if I were to give you a definition for pleasure, I would say that pleasure is the enjoyable sensation, all right, that comes from personal gratification. It says the enjoyable sensation. Say enjoyable. Say it like you mean it. Enjoyable sensations that come from personal gratification. Can't you feel that? That just feels good, doesn't it? Yeah. And so he's saying here now that this is what he's going to test himself with. This enjoyable sensations, right, that come from personal gratification. And so when he does this, look at what the first thing he says now. He says he's going to test himself with this. But now this is his thesis, that he can fill the hole in his soul, right, with pleasure so that he can live his best life. That's what he wants to do, fill the hole in his soul with pleasure so he can live his best life. Now, and so his thesis is that if he does that, he'll be able to live his best life. But shortly, right here at the beginning of the verse, he's going to go ahead on and tell you about the rest of the chapter. So if you don't even read anymore, he says, but this proved, look what it says, the test. He took the test, right? Look what he says next. It proves what? But that proves what? Meaningless. He says now he took the test. He says, but that also proved. Meaning now also means what? Last week he talked about wisdom. He said that wisdom, worldly wisdom, proved meaningless. Now he's saying that he's tried worldly pleasure. That means doing those things outside the boundaries that God has said you should not do. He's saying that he's tried all of them and he's found out that he has come up empty once more and again. He's trying to save us from some pain and suffering, but most of us want to have the experience. You know, experience is your most expensive teacher. It costs you time and money. And I mean, it hurts. But if you learn from someone else's experience, then you can avoid that trap. I don't know if I've ever told you all this, but when my son and I were growing up together, y'all to catch that later, I used to tell him, I said, son, come to me and tell me some stupid stuff you're thinking about doing, so I can tell you if I've already done that stupid thing. Because you don't need to do that one. I can tell you about that one. I say, go off and do something I haven't done, so we can learn together what we both don't need to do. All right? and so he would come to me. I said, oh, man, let me just tell you about that. He said, really, Dad? I said, yeah. And so that was my younger me. All right? And so parents, if you've got some children, don't they look like the younger you? Yeah. Don't they treat you like you treat your parents? Yeah. I wanted to kill him, but then my dad said I couldn't. I said, why not? He said, because I should have killed you. Is this making sense to anybody? And so here he is now. He's saying that he tried all of these things and they were meaningless, that they didn't have any value to him. And so if I were to give you your first life lesson here, I would say that pleasure by itself offers nothing, or it doesn't offer anything of lasting value. Pleasure by itself doesn't offer anything of lasting value. And so now he goes on to show you how his thesis was debunked by the things that he went on head on and tried to do. Notice what he says next. Laughter is what? Madness. He's saying now that when he laughed, that he did things to make him happy, that he ended up being crazy and foolish to do it all. A lot of us spend our times on, how many of you tell you want your children to be happy? Come on, don't lie to me. Yeah, that's the worst thing to say. How many of you ever say you want your children to be holy? I need to see all of y'all for baptism. We just need to start back from the beginning. You know, because I done got something wrong somewhere along the line. But most of us focus on, we want them to be happy. We want them to be happy. We want them to be happy. We want them to have, we throw parties for them. We do all kinds of things. And he's saying here that kind of activity is madness. He says, and what does pleasure accomplish? And so he goes on to that verse number 3 there. He starts to tell us what he did. He said, I tried. How many of you tried cheering yourself? He's saying, yeah, come on, you can raise your hand. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Y'all, but 2 of us in here. That's done ever went out and done. Oh, there's a 3rd one. Yeah, a few more of you coming on in. Yeah, that we've done some things, right, to cheer ourselves. See, I didn't even say what it was, and none of you raised your hand. Now, how many of you ever drunk with a little wine? Y'all had communion last week before you came to church. You had it on Saturday night. You were practicing all Saturday night. Ha, 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 ha. Let's see, how do they do that on Sunday? Ha, 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 ha. Yeah. All right. I promise you all, this is tea. It might be spiked, but it's tea. Notice what he says now. He says he cheered himself with wine. Now, he's not saying that he just went on this drunken binge just to see how drunk he could get, because some of us just do that. You ever say, I'm going to get drunk tonight? Why? Because it's Friday night. Well, why'd you get drunk last night? Because it was Thursday. You know, you see, right? You see, folks, they just look for, he's saying, I'm cheering myself. You know, we find reasons, you know, you find any kind of reason to have a party, right? I mean, we just want to have a party just because the day Wednesday is hump day. Let's get drunk. Why? Because it's hump day. Yeah, hump day, yeah, you got to have a hump day drink. Yeah. He is telling us, he says, I tried all of this. This is the wisest man in the world, right? Who he was a man of wisdom. He's now making himself a man of pleasure. He's saying, I tried this. He says, I tried it. I tried living my best life doing these things here. I tried to fill the hole in my soul. See, when we're saying that we want to live our best life, we're saying that we've got this vacancy on the inside that needs to be filled with something so that I can feel fulfilled in my life. And there's some things we go with outwardly that we put inwardly that we feel is going to help us feel better completely. All right? Outwardly, inwardly, completely. That's what we want. We take stuff on the outside, we put it on the inside, and we feel that it's going to make us feel complete. And whether it's wine, whether it's whiskey, whether it's weed. Y'all were glad when they passed the laws. You don't have to buy the nickel bag. They still have nickel bags? They done gone up. Inflation done hit everywhere. You can't even get a nickel bag of weed anymore. I mean, time's getting hard, isn't it? We got to just keep it real. We got to understand if we want to help the younger me, we just got to let them know how it is. Did I tell y'all something? I just read about that stuff. Yeah, it was called Street Life. Yeah, yeah. But he said this. Now, look what he says next. He not only does he cheer himself, what he's talking about with some kind of substance. He's saying now, and whether it's whiskey, as I said, whether it's wine, whether it's weed, whether it's drugs, whether they're legal drugs or illegal drugs, he was trying to fill this hole on the inside with something that would make him feel complete. And so he would take that on the outside and put it on the inside to make him feel complete. And so he said he did those things. And then when that wasn't enough, he didn't say he just did that. He says, and he embraced folly. That means doing foolish stuff. Just doing foolish, just stupid with a capital S. It does start with S, doesn't it? Okay, all right, yeah, just does stupid stuff. Anybody other than me in here done some stupid stuff? Okay, a few more hands went up. Y'all don't drink, but you do stupid stuff. You need a drink. Because I only did stupid stuff after I had a drink. Because I didn't want to be sober and tell somebody I did that while I was sober. It's easy to tell somebody I did that because I was drunk. But if you did some stupid stuff and you were sober, you need a drink. This is real, right? He's saying now that he did all kind of crazy stuff. He drank, he did crazy stuff, and this is just what he did. And the reason he was doing it, as I said, he had this hole in his soul that he was trying to fulfill so that he could feel whole. He wanted this completeness so he could live his best life. All of us desire to live our best life, and we spend all kinds of time, money, and energy and effort in doing so. And if anyone could tell you about how to do it, Solomon could tell you about it. Brothers, he talking about a womanizer. Wilt Chamberlain had nothing on him. Now, you know, Wilt the Stilt was supposed to be the man with the ladies. According to record now, I read this in Sports Illustrated. I don't know if that's a reliable source, but that's where it was. You know, and he bragged about his sleeping with 100 women. Yeah, but Solomon said, please. That's what Solomon said. Solomon said, please, Wilt, I did 1,000. Read your text. 700 wives and 300 concubines. 700 plus 300 is. So brothers, if you think you need to know something about how to treat a woman, Solomon can tell you. He's got history. Now, there are those of us who like to throw a good party. Now, I want, for one, I'm just going to confess, I love a good party. In fact, I was known back in the day, not yesterday, but back in the day, all right, for throwing the best Super Bowl parties in Charlotte. In fact, it's a sad thing because folks still see me now. They come up, man, I done missed the party. I said, bro, I ain't been one in over 35 years. He said, I thought you had moved. I said, I did, but I still haven't been throwing any parties. But the parties used to be so good. Now, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm going to show you how bad off I was. That I remember that there was a snowstorm, and I used to tell you what I would do. I would go out and get a keg of water. No, beer, all right? I'd get a keg, and then I would go by the ABC store. Now, you know you can only buy so much at each store. Folks throwing the party, y'all know that, right? Y'all don't know nothing about that. Yeah, so you had to hit up the stores, and you had to get to them early before they put your name in the system. Yeah, so you get this, and this, or you had to have a buy-in crew. Send this person over here, this person over here. Y'all, don't look at me like I'm crazy. Y'all hadn't always been saved. Or have you? Well, I'ma just confess, I have not always been, but I am now. I thank God. So one time it was a snowstorm coming. Is that for me? Y'all, somebody got Jesus on the main line. I didn't know that. I heard that old folks say that, but I didn't know it was real. Call you right in church. But anyway, where was I? Oh, about the Super Bowl party. And I would have folks coming from all over. And they started calling me on that Saturday night and said, man, it's supposed to be ice and storm. What are you going to do? I said, look, y'all, don't come. I said, now the place is going to be set up, but don't come. I said, I'll just, we just have to watch it. And, back then you didn't have all of these devices where you could, connect all kind of ways. That was back in the 90s, way back in then. But sure enough, games at that time used to start about 4 o'clock, in the afternoon. It wasn't these late nights. So they knew we had to go to work the next day. Now Super Bowl Monday seems like a holiday. It's a day for your hangover, and all of that. But anyway, they started coming in and it started snowing. But we had a good time. Yeah. That was crazy. That was foolish. I shouldn't have even let him in the house. Are you seeing what I'm talking about? We do some foolish things. But see, that wasn't a party. Go to Second Kings, I believe, the 4th chapter, and you want to talk about a man who knew how to throw a party, Look at Solomon. I think it's the 4th chapter here, verse 20. No, it's 1 Kings. It's 1 Kings. Okay, I think it should be in your app. It might. No. Is it? Yeah, it's in your app too, if you are on our app. 1 Kings chapter 4, verses 22 through 23. Listen to this. Solomon's daily provisions were 30 cores, that's not cores beer, of the finest flour, and 60 cores of meal or wheat, 23 heads of stall-fed cattle, 20 of pasture-fed cattle, and 100 sheep and goats, as well as deer, gazelle, roebucks, and choice fowl. Now, go back. I hope y'all saw the key word. This was Solomon's daily provisions. Daily. I did some calculation and then I did some research. And if you just take one good fed cattle can feed between 1,000 to 2,000 people. One. Here he's got he's got 10 heads. I'm sorry. He's got 10 heads and then 20. So that's 30, right? Times 1,000. That's 60,000 people just with the cattle. Because some folks only ate sheep, lamb. And so you got 100 in there. I ain't had time to do the calculation on that. And I didn't know they ate goat like that, but they did. Yeah. And deer and gazelle and roe and choice fowl. That's a lot. So this brother was throwing a party every day of 100,000 people maybe. Rocking, socking. Boom, 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 boom. All of that he wanted to do. That's what he was doing. So what did he learn from this? Here's what we learn about it. Let me just give you a second life lesson here. Pleasure is powerful, it's poisonous, and it's painful. When you're outside the boundaries of what God wants you to do. Drug addiction, painful, powerful, poisonous. Sex addiction, powerful, poisonous, painful. Gambling, come on, poisonous, powerful, painful. I can go on with the list. What's your habit? Whatever ungodly habit you have, it's got a hold on you. That's why it's powerful. It's poisonous because God doesn't want you to have it. And when it's through with you, it's going to be painful because you're going to be worse off than you are now than you were before you ever started doing it. Some of us got the scars to show it. Life was ruined. My personal life. Because of pleasure, satisfaction. But I thank God for being a redeeming God. Because I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, barely deeply staying within, looking to rise no more. But the master of the sea heard my despairing cry from the waters, lifted me. Now save. Save! Save! Hey! I went back in my father's yard. I didn't run out after the ball anymore. If the ball went in the street, I let the ball go. Why? And I would call my daddy, and my daddy would go out in the street and get the ball and bring it back in the yard. The same way that God took Jesus and went out on a cross, hung him on a cross, stretched him wide, hung him high, dropped his head, and then he died. But that's not how the story ends. 3 days later, he rose again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me give you this last little bit. Notice what he said he wanted to do. He says, I wanted to see the good for people to do under the heavens. He's talking about, again, outside of God's boundaries. All right. During, now here's the key word, the few days of their lives. He's telling us life is short. My young folks, I don't care. The young lady talking about she want to do some new stuff. He has already told us nothing new under the sun. Let us help you. Let us tell you the things that we have done and the things that didn't work for us so that you don't have to pay those same prices. You don't have to make those same mistakes. You don't have to go down those same roads. You can relieve yourself of some of the things. You don't have to go through that because we see the good that it does not do. We know the end results of having being unchecked. That's why I left my mom and daddy's house, because I wanted to live a life unchecked. I wanted to be able to do what I was grown, big, and bad enough to do. And I did. And it cost me. If I'd have just listened to the younger me who was my dad. That's all we want for you. We want you to do better than we did. Sooner than later. So let me give you your third life lesson here. Unrestricted pleasure and countless possessions, listen to this, will never fully satisfy your soul. All right? Unrestricted pleasure. So I don't care how far and wide you want to go. I don't care how many possessions you get. It will not fill that hole in your soul. It can't do it. It can't do it. There's only one way for it to be done. And as I told you earlier, God isn't against us having pleasure. In fact, he's the author of it. you can have your best life, living your right life through a life with Jesus Christ. Amen. So let me just give you some cups of wisdom here. Let me give you 3 cups. Let me see here. The first one. That I want you to remember. God has given us many things to enjoy on earth. There are many things. But our priority should be enjoying him. If you will enjoy him first, he says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. He says, I'll add all of that other stuff. Add it. He didn't say you have to get it. He says he'll add it to your account. I love God's math because it's always better and better than my math. Number 2, what satisfies you needs to sync with what satisfies God. So when you start to do something, you need to ask yourself, is this going to please God? Can I just talk plain? You ever heard of 2 people and they ended up in bed with each other, or on the floor, in the back seat of a car, or in a bathroom booth, or somewhere on the roof of a house, in a garbage dump or somewhere, and they all said it happened so fast? You probably even use that when you say, it just happened so fast. That's a lie. You know what you're doing the whole time. Let me get a sip of this right here. So what satisfies you needs to be in sync with what satisfies God. The 3rd cup of tea. God did not design us for a life of partying, but a life of productivity. I'm just going to say this. Some of y'all don't need to watch the game on Thursday night. No need of having a NFL kickoff season party unless you're a Buccaneer fan. Don't waste your time. And let me give you a bottom line. Enjoyment without God is entertainment, not enrichment. See, God gives us pleasure to enrich our lives. That's why He gives us a day off, so that you can relax and restore and rejuvenate. But if you're doing it outside of God, you're going to end up right back where you were before you ever did it. So what am I encouraging you to do? Let's move forward. We can't worry about what we did back there. Come on, we can't. Ain't no need of looking back. But you can reach back, pull somebody forward. As you start moving forward and knowing that the God of the universe is a God who wants you to have a good time. But He says there's a time and a place. And if we just stay in that fence yard, and when things go outside the fence, if your Father in heaven doesn't go and get it and bring it back inside the fence, you let it go. You let that ball go on down the street, and God will give you what you need as long as you stay inside the fence. So you don't have to take what's on the outside to bring it on the inside to be complete. No, you take the one from above and let Him move inside, and He can give you everything you stand in need of.